How does the hair look? Does the hair look okay? Does the hair look
I
okay?
think you look all right.
Okay, thanks. Hello, I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me as usual is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right today, Frank. How are you?
So I sat behind, oh God, did I bite my tongue? I sat behind Dale Lastman and the big guy. You know who the big guy is, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know the
I
big guy.
do.
Sat behind both of them at the press conference. And I made them turn around and look at me. I said something they thought was funny.
Well,
I said, the Leafs suck. And they turned around and smiled at me. No, I didn't do that. David was sitting beside me. We didn't say nothing about the Maple Leafs. Nope, nothing whatsoever. They were there to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Toronto Argonauts, the winningest team in the Canadian Football League, 18 to be exact. They won just this past year, so they're defending champions. Pinball Clemens was there. Stacy, I forgot the football player's name. Stacy, oh, I forgot. I feel bad now. But anyway, he was the president of the Alumni Association for the Toronto Argonauts. There were a bunch of ex Argos there, older guys. Um, it was a lot of fun. All the media, all the regular media folks were there, some of the newspapers, stuff like that. So it was a real good event. There's going to be some donations done charitably. If anybody didn't see it, you can watch it. It's on YouTube. So if you find it, the Toronto Argonauts celebrating their new uniforms. It was a press conference held earlier today. And of course, Bill Manning was there as well. And I asked him about Toronto FC. It wasn't a topic that he wanted to talk about. He almost curled up into the fetal position because that damn team is so frustrating. But anyway, let's talk about what. Did you catch any of that? Did you know about the jerseys? What do you think of them? Have you seen
I
them?
I actually I'm a big fan of Cambridge Blue, so I like that they brought that back. The one issue that I have with the new uniforms is the oar blades on the shoulder look a lot like feathers.
And there's a team already in the league that has feathers on their shoulder.
Yeah.
They're
So
known as the
I
Alouettes.
appreciate the attempt. At the same time, I wish they'd done a little bit more to differentiate between oar blades and wing feathers. So,
Maybe they could have included a little bit of a splash or something. I don't know.
or actually made them look like oars.
E-
You know,
or or they
yeah,
could have made them look like oars.
or make them look like oars. Just a
Yeah, some fans were there as well. John Granger, Margaret Jurisitz were there. David Knott was there. There were other fans that were there. It was like, oh, here we go. The season's starting again. And then I drove like I didn't drive illegally. At least I would never admit I was driving illegally. I made it back here with ugh, just a little bit late. So I apologize to those of you who are looking forward to us starting immediately. Mostly the people who are directly involved in the show, like Aaron, Eduardo, and I think Angie was there, or was she not? Was
no,
Angela?
she was not.
Angela? No. Okay, then that was
Eduardo
yeah.
just has himself labeled as Angie.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't look at the screen, and all kinds of issues came up, word issues, camera issues. You know, when you don't have any time, that's the stuff that's going to happen to you. So,
Of course.
so anyway, we got here. We're here. Let's start. You want to start with some news for a change? I see here. So let's talk about Singh asked Trudeau for certain conditions before getting security clearance.
So there's been a lot that's been going on lately in Canadian Parliament, in particular with Pierre Poilievre bleeding on about security clearances and getting briefings and what have you. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has asked the Prime Minister to allow more members of the NDP to be briefed on foreign interference attempts. This is after leaders of the Conservative and Bloc Québécois declined to obtain the required security clearances. Basically, Singh is saying, "Hey, if they're not interested in hearing about the potential threats to our country, the NDP certainly will be." And in particular for the leaders of for the leaders of those two parties, the Conservative and the Bloc. Singh is basically saying, "Hey, why don't you let two more members of my caucus do that sort of thing?" Um,
And what's the difficulty or I don't know, what kind of hoops do you have to jump for security purposes? Is it that difficult? Or is
I
it that intrusive? Is it that scary? Is it that take too much time? We have politicians who don't think that, security is an issue. Are these people going to the school of Trump or what's going on here?
Well, I mean, I can think the only reason you wouldn't want to get a security clearance is the potential that you have something to hide. And heaven forfend
That's what it looks like.
that
That's what it
that
looks like. We're not saying, right,
Stanisci
Aaron, that
and
there
Pierre
is anything.
Poilievre,
We're not
you know,
saying there's anything to hide. We're just saying
no,
it
no.
makes it the appearance if someone says to you, "Okay, we're going to let you do something. We want to check some stuff out. Okay with you?" No, no, um, no.
Well, in that case, you get to know about the threats that are being made against our country. You don't get to know about the threats that are made against individual MPPs, and you're out of the loop, which doesn't seem to me like you'd be keeping the best interests of the country at heart. So
Well,
that's just my take. What do I
I
know?
I think if there's nothing to be said for anything, it's to be if you are a politician and you're afraid that people are checking you out. I understand about invasion of privacy. Let's start there. We have to understand is there an invasion of privacy that is the fear and is it a distrust of government, which seems to be a favorite thought of a lot of people in North America lately, this lack of trust in our government, which I understand. I mean, to be the devil's advocate here just for a moment, yeah, the government does some silly stuff. The government has made some mistakes. The government, blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But if you're part of the government,
Seems ironic, no?
no, it does. It just seems like, okay, I'm part of the government. Do they not have a handle on saying, hey, you're doing this? My party and I want to know what you're doing is right. I don't know. Sometimes it's crazy. Prince Edward Island, government forecasts a $98 million deficit in their annual budget. This is not a projected deficit over the next 10, 20 years. This is one in this budget.
That's correct. And this is a deficit for the fiscal year of 97.6, with money for a new medical school to be erected. It includes $3.09 billion in spending, with $2.99 billion in revenues projected for the 23-24 fiscal year. Last budget had forecasted between 2.7 billion in spending and 2.6 billion in revenues, and a deficit of about 92 million. The government's investing about $22 million this fiscal year to establish a medical school at UPEI, which they say will help address a shortage of healthcare workers. To ease the housing crisis, the government has also said it's going to spend $25 million to develop construction ready lots. So there's a lot that's been going on in here. Not to mention an additional $350,000 to be spent on the diversification of crops to prepare for climate change and to explore controlled environment and indoor farming. So
And in grade three terms, which is my speak, um, different plants and different vegetables, fruits, anything that you grow, depending on the environment that you're in, dictates the kind of fruits, vegetables you grow. And because the environment is changing drastically, so does the plan on what you can plant. So this is one of the reasons why, the environment, it punches back. Let's not forget that. And that's really what everybody seems to forget. They think, it's just, oh, the heck with the environment. They won't bother us. The environment doesn't bother us. And then all of a sudden there's fires everywhere, there's floods, and the environment saying, hold my beer, will you? So we should
yeah,
take it more seriously.
it's an interesting situation that they find themselves in, and the question of being able to prepare for that sort of eventuality is huge. Not to mention the fact that they lost a huge chunk of tourist land when sand dunes eroded on the island in the last tropical storm that they had. So
Yeah,
that's another consideration too. They've been hard hit. And it's been a tough time. So I
yeah.
can understand them running a deficit to try to get things back on track, but it's something to be aware of if they consistently run deficits on a regular basis.
The word that we have to use under these times is pivot. Everything is pivotal. So you have to be able to pivot on a dime. And this is just their way of acknowledging the issues that they have. My hopes that Prince Edward Island, that, potatoes, if you have a potato, PEI is the place to go. Best potatoes ever. And a lot of my friends that were from PEI made the greatest. Oh, never mind. Anyway, I'm digressing. Quebec will require economic immigrants to speak French before arriving.
Yeah. So Francois Legault says the province is going to require now that the vast majority of economic immigrants to Quebec speak French before they arrive. 65% of immigrants to Quebec come through the economic immigration stream, which is controlled by the province. Legault says his government is also considering increasing the number of immigrants it accepts every year to 60,000 from 50,000 by 2027. The majority of this would be people, of course, arriving through the economic stream, meaning they're coming there to take jobs,
Hmm.
to make money. His government's not considering increasing the number of people who immigrate through the family reunification program or as refugees. Uh, he had now he, this is a bit of an about face for Legault because he had said during the province's fall election campaign, sorry, that accepting more than 50,000 immigrants a year would be suicidal for Quebec. But he's saying that if immigrants speak French, they won't threaten the province's culture and language, so we'd be okay to bring them in.
I guess it's safe to say that there are enough countries in the world that might have potential immigrants coming to Canada, or people willing to emigrate from their country to come to Canada, that have French as a first language, right?
There's a good chunk of the world that speaks
French
French, so
Guiana. I mean,
it's
I don't know.
not
Do they
entirely
still speak
unexpected,
French in French Guiana, right?
or even Haiti.
Or Haiti. That's
Yeah.
right. That's it. I'm not a big fan of Quebec's language laws because they basically are counterintuitive to where we are today and what we talk about on the whole. Now, here I'm not here saying that um, we should stop them from doing it because I don't really think it's my place because the complicated nature. Because the first thing somebody will say outside Quebec, or an English speaking person will say, "You see, they have to speak French there. Why can't they speak English here?" You know, and
Most
it
of them do, just people don't
right.
care to
You know
take
what
the
I mean,
time to
right?
listen. But I
And
know, I know exactly the type of person you're talking about.
they're
There's a
going to
few of
say
them that
that.
live in my building, so
Yeah, it is the way it is. It is the way it is. Quebec Provincial Police conduct raid in Mohawk community of Kanistake.
Yeah. So this is the investigators with the Sûreté de Quebec's police's financial crimes unit. They're currently conducting searches in Kanesatake. Now, the Mohawk Council of Kanesatake says provincial police are searching the band office and the health center in connection with an investigation into the community's COVID-19 task force. In addition to that, um, because the indigenous-led force in that area was disbanded in 2005, police have rarely ever entered the community, which was the site of the 1990 Oka crisis. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Blocking
but
the
as
road.
it currently stands, a lot of members in Kanasatake are apparently living under a climate of intimidation because of lack of police presence. And there are allegations of organized crime operating with impunity
Well,
through that
the
particular
vacuum the
reserve. So,
vacuum's going to be filled.
yep,
The reality is that people need to be policed, and police do 99.9 times out of 100. All they do is good work. The odd ones are, they make mistakes, and they're not to be taken lightly. But still, the police, if they perform their job, are a big asset to every community. So hopefully they can figure that out. Um, s several on staying in policing, several Ontario police forces target street racing. Say activity is on the rise. Here in Simcoe, we have the same issue here.
yeah, there's a couple great wide open straight streets in my neighborhood um, that are at least a quarter of a mile long. And with the arrival of Fast 10 in theaters and the arrival of summer weather, I have noticed an uptick in the number of howling car and bike engines that I can hear at about 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm on my way to bed. So,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
industrial. Nobody's there after 5 o'clock. There's a maybe a neighborhood splash pad, but that closes at 7:30. So,
Yeah.
after that, it's carte blanche. And um, there's been a 31% increase in stunt driving calls over this time last year. Since January, Toronto itself has actually seen 521 charges related to stunt driving and speeding. So it is really on the increase. Now, the other thing that they're saying is they're providing an outlet for people that see this sort of thing and aren't sure how to report it. Call Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers will inform the police. The police can then set themselves up where they can catch these individuals breaking the law.
Absolutely. Um, Alberta NDP say that they would be willing to take steps to focus on affordability, jobs, and pensions if elected.
Yeah, so the election is coming up, and when I say coming up, I mean it's Monday. If you haven't been already voting out there in Alberta, folks, get out early, get your vote in, make sure that you get it done. Um, NDP leader Rachel Notley is saying that her first three pieces of legislation, should she win, would be to focus on saving Albertans money, creating good paying jobs, and protecting pensions. Now, that is, of course, provisional to her party forming the government. She also says her government would also work to deliver better health care and education for Albertans. One of those first things that she wants to do is institute something called the Save Albertans Money Act, which include measures to lower the cost of utility bills, auto insurance, children's activities, and tuition. Bill 2 would be an Investment Certainty Act, which would repeal the Sovereignty Act, which Danielle Smith put into place, and introduce new tax credits and eliminate other taxes for small businesses. And the third piece of legislation would be a Pension Protection Act, which Notley says would safeguard the retirement savings of Albertans by preventing any future government from leaving the Canada Pension Plan.
Let's go to the world. And in Finland, electricity prices in Finland flipped negative as
So this
opposed to
is this is
positive.
actually kind of cool. Um, Now I'm a big proponent of green energy,
There you go.
um, and I'm a huge proponent of clean energy as well. They actually had a massive oversupply of clean hydroelectric power, so much so um, that the energy prices had actually fallen into the negatives. They're also expecting a new nuclear
Oh,
reactor.
another one of these
Uh,
situations where they pay for you to use it. Remember with the oil,
yeah,
they were paying people to take it. Sorry, go ahead.
but
That's just
yeah, I mean it's one of those things where it's like they've got a new nuclear reactor that's coming online. There have been unexpected floods which have helped replenish slightly depleted reservoirs, hydroelectric reservoirs. Um, Yeah, it's a striking reversal from last year where Finns had to slash their usage after they cut ties with Russia. It's showing that they really don't need the Russians to keep themselves supplied with power, which is a good thing for them, a bad thing for the Russians. But
necessity is the
yeah,
mother of invention.
yes, sir,
And if you need power, you figure out how to get it. And if the people that are providing you power make you scared, then you figure out a way to make them unnecessary. And
exactly.
nothing says scary, dangerous, and need to be put away more than Russia's leader, Mr. Putin. Oh no, does this mean he's going to put me on that list that he's got a bunch of people on that have nothing to do with him, will never be in Russia, have not? Did you see the list that he put out? Bunch of MSNBC
I saw that.
newscasters.
Yeah, the good news is I'm never
Uh,
going to Russia anyway. So
yeah, but then again, he's been known, it's been said that he goes after people outside Russia. So be careful out there. So I wish I hadn't have said what I said. Let's talk about the US and, of course, their debt ceiling. Oh, this is such a, I don't know. I don't know. I'm, I just, it just boggles my mind that they're arguing over paying their bills and saying if we don't adjust how we're, I don't know. I don't get it. You can explain it, Aaron.
Well, they are actually currently closing in on a deal to raise the government's capacity to borrow money. This is what they mean when they talk about a debt ceiling. This is
Their credit cards come due.
exactly, and they're just saying, hey, let us increase our limit a little bit because we need to buy more whiz bangs for the military and whatnot. Now they do actually have a new June 5th deadline, so that's a bit of a
Is
good thing.
is
They're not.
that is that a moving? Because the big issue has been that the line's been, the target date or the end date has been moving. It was
Yeah,
June 1st once, right?
yeah.
So
Now
it's
it's
June
now it's
5th.
now it's June 5th, but
But here's the problem: the people who are watching, the money handlers that are watching this, they may go and say, you know what, we're gonna raise interest rates now just because you haven't made a decision. So they've got to be careful, Aaron.
oh no, it's certainly something they have to be aware of and they have to be concerned with. As a matter of fact, the leading credit provider has actually put the United States on a negative watch at this point. So,
Hmm?
but here's the thing: any agreement that would come about would most likely limit spending for 2 years, with the exception of the whiz bangs and veterans programs. So
And
it's
and yeah, and the industrial.
well, it's the industrial complex that goes along with the military. So
Yeah,
Boeing gone get paid.
yeah, and don't ask them to save money.
No, it's not going to happen.
Don't trim them.
Nope.
In Germany, well, for Pink Floyd fans, for those of you that have been watching how Roger Waters has gone around the world making very inflammatory political statements, he did so in Germany, didn't he? And they're thinking of charging him with incitement.
Yeah. For those who are not aware, as a result of the fallout of World War II and Germany's participation in it, not to mention certain events that transpired in and around Germany during that time, they have rather strict rules when it comes to anti Semitism and when it comes to certain imagery which could be linked to the formerly ruling party at that particular time. Images of his concert in Berlin showed Waters firing a imitation machine gun while dressed in a long black coat with a red armband. Police confirmed that an investigation was opened over suspicions that the context of the costume could constitute a glorification, justification, or approval of Nazi rule, and therefore would constitute a disturbance of the peace. Um, as a lot of us are aware, the red armband was a thing for the Nazi Party and
Yeah.
their groups in Germany during the Second World War. So this is a legitimate concern. Now, this is also goes along with his call for boycotts and sanctions against Israel, which he, of course, says, "Well, I'm not an anti-Semite. I have Jewish friends." It's one of those sort of moments. Last year, the Polish city of Krakow canceled gigs by Waters because of his sympathetic stance towards Russia and its war against Ukraine. So he's not doing himself any favors.
In fact, he in fact, one of the things he said that might make you understand where he stands politically, he supports what Russia did because he believes that Ukraine instigated the war.
Which no, but
If trying to exist independently of another country instigates a war,
we're in
then
trouble.
then then Ukraine did instigate a war. Oh well. Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain chip firm wins U.S. approval for human studies. Should he be maybe the first person to give it a shot? Take it out on a ride? Because,
I'm
the purchase of Twitter, you know, every guy has, he has his little, Achilles heel. And I think Twitter is his Achilles heel.
Now, see, the Neuralink says that it hopes to use its microchip to treat conditions such as paralysis and blindness, and to help disabled people use computers and mobile technology. The chips, which have been tested in monkeys uh, with great controversy, um, uh, and concern by animal rights groups, and I can't necessarily say I disagree, are they're designed to interpret signals produced in the brain and relate information to devices via Bluetooth. Now, I don't know about you, Frank, but for a company that builds rockets that repeatedly experience rapid, unscheduled disassemblies, and cars that light themselves on fire and treat pedestrians like point gathering options in GTA 5, I don't think I want any company associated with that, the individual's companies, putting anything in my brain.
Well,
I'm just saying, strictly
I,
from
you
a
know,
self-preservation point of view.
well, the listen, monkeys. We shouldn't be abusing animals. So depending on what he's doing there, I don't know what it is, but I understand what you're saying. You shouldn't abuse animals. We even don't want to abuse rats, for goodness sake. Anyway, as far as abusing humans, that's where I draw the line. I mean, this is, technology is a fantastic thing. It's awesome. We benefit from technology every day. There's always something coming down the pipe. I mean, getting beyond telephones and stuff like that, where there's a new one every year. There's technology, for example, limb replacement. There are people running around today without legs. They're literally running around, you know. There's all kinds of things that they're trying to do. If they could help somebody who's blind see, all we hope for, I think, from what I heard from you, Aaron, is that the way they do it is with some compassion and understanding that animals aren't tools; they're beings too.
Now,
But some,
there was a follow on to this. Sorry, Frank.
no worries. I
There
was
is a
done.
follow on to this. Gert Jan Oskam is a 40-year-old Dutch man who was paralyzed in a cycling accident 12 years ago. There is a practical application for this. He is actually able to walk again, not because of Neuralink, but because of Swiss researchers that have been working on along the same sorts of lines. So he is able to now walk with the assistance of a walker and a headband that interprets brain signals and sends electronic signals to his legs and to his feet. So there are actual practical, worthwhile, real world applications here. We just have to be careful how it's done and who does it.
Okay, a little something. I'm gonna hijack the CFL and say this: that I watched the Edmonton Calgary game in Calgary. I was amazed. They overcome a lot of issues. I'm just glad football's back. I went to that thing today in Toronto at well, anyway, so to celebrate the Argos new unis, uh, football's back, and tomorrow there's a game in Hamilton.
Yep.
And later on Thursday, there's one in Toronto with Ottawa. And then on the 18th of June, I was at this event and they were pro Argos and they were salivating at the thought that Hamilton's coming in on June 18th. I think it's June 18th. And the Argos will be unfurling their latest championship in this century. I think it's their third or fourth in this century.
No, I'm greatly looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I'll be in Montreal watching
Oh
F1
yeah, but
when that
you'll be
happens, but I'll
watching.
be there in spirit.
You'll be watching Frank one.
Perfect.
I know what you'll be doing.
Of course.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the NBA. The Celtics rolled over the Heat, and that means that the Celtics live to play another day.
Yeah. Now they were supposed to be done, and unlike the NHL, it seems that in the NBA, overcoming a three loss deficit doesn't seem to be as big of a thing. They beat Miami 110-97 in Game 5, which means they're forcing a Game 6 on Saturday night in South Florida, which is really awesome. I'm happy for them. Um, just as long as the Miami Heat put their feet on their throats and make sure that they don't actually get into the next round. Um, you know, now their opponent is going to be well rested. The Nuggets are currently waiting for the winner of this series for the NBA Finals. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yes, and a former Raptors on, of course, Florida's team.
Yeah.
The Lions wide receiver Jason Williams says he wasn't aware of the NFL's strict gambling rules after a 6-game suspension.
Yeah,
Oopsie.
apparently, if you're in the NFL, you're not allowed to place bets on other football games while you're on NFL team property. But it was Jameson Williams, Stanley Berryhill. Those two gentlemen both got 6 games. Lions wide receiver Quintez Cephas, safety C.J. Moore, and Washington Commanders defensive end Shaka Tony were all suspended indefinitely. All of
Yikes.
those players, with the exception of Jameson Williams, have since been released. Williams reportedly bet on college football games while at an NFL team facility, which is explicitly forbidden by the league's gambling rules. He just say, there's one of those pleading ignorance sort of things, but um, so
Let's talk about the Blue Jays. They had a team meeting face to face with their teammates. The team has unraveled a little bit. Aaron, what's going on with them?
well, they're in a stretch now of 17 games straight, and things haven't been going well. They've lost 9 of their 11 games so far. There's another 6 games to go in the string before they get another day off. The problem hasn't been underperforming pitchers, but it has been. Their problem hasn't been underperforming hitting, but it has been. But the biggest thing right now is this: in 4 games against the Tampa Bay Rays, the Rays stole 10 bases and only got thrown out once. This is a huge defensive liability for the Blue Jays now. Teams are going to be able to exploit the run, and especially based on the fact that pitchers can't make more than 2 cutoff attempts per at bat, this is causing problems. So they had a closed door meeting. This was on Thursday after their most recent loss when they lost 6-3. Um, they lost 3 of 4 to the Yankees, lost all 3 games to the Orioles, and lost 3 of 4 to the Rays. They're actually currently trailing those same Rays by 10.5 games. Um, you know, Everything just seems to be getting bigger. All their problems seem to be getting worse.
Well,
Everything seems to be more
this is
insurmountable.
happening around Major League Baseball. A lot of steals are happening.
Yeah.
I think what we've got now is we've got the new pitching rules. I'll call them the pitching rules because the pitch clock is about pitching. Those new rules now, the experts, the professionals, the guys the guys and gals that come up with the ideas have seen something, and now they're exploiting it around the league. So now what you have is, as does happen in sports, when there's a new idea that percolates up, now there has to be a counter proposal. So we'll see what teams can do as a counter proposal to mitigate, because they're not going to stop it, Aaron, because of what you said. They can only do it twice. They can only toss off twice. So it's going to be a lot more runs, and I'm not sure whether that kind of run scoring is something that I know the diehard fans, the old fashioned fans aren't going to like it that much, because you're making stealing, and I don't think Henderson will like it either, because his reputation and his record could be under threat very quickly with what's going on here. It's basically they've juiced the bases, is what they've done with these rules, just like when they juiced the bats
Yep.
or the balls, right?
So I mean, this obviously the increased scoring is something that was intentional. The fact that the Jays are getting their show run by teams that are actively exploiting this means that, what with the ban on the shift and the pitch clock and the bigger bases, they have to learn to adapt. This is I think the opportunity that John Schneider has been looking for to prove himself as a manager.
Yeah,
And
he's
you know,
under the gun. The
yeah,
first person to face scrutiny, intense scrutiny, is the manager when the team's not playing well, and then the Jays have not been playing well. Before we leave, Leaf off-season news: Kyle Dubas may have done something that he and his prospective new boss might have done something that maybe they shouldn't have. Aaron, do you want to explain it?
sure. As per NHLPA requirements and regulations, certified agents aren't allowed to render services for any NHL team employee. Kyle Davis's agent is a gentleman by the name of Chris Armstrong. Uh, he works with primarily he works with golf pros. So there's that one little wrinkle right there. Um, but yeah, he represents Tony Finau and Cameron Champ. He isn't subject to discipline by the NHLPA, but it will likely be determined whether he exploited a loophole by working for Dubas while being registered as a golf agent. Now, there's no express written rule at the time that Armstrong can't work as a hockey agent if the NHL clears his relationship with Dubas. There was an anonymous source and an anonymous agent that spoke to Frank Saravelli, saying it's an unwritten, understood, and long-standing practice that your guy down the hall doesn't work for the other side. It's like the NHL. I'd like the NHLPA to launch an investigation and draw their own conclusions. So, as if things weren't bad enough with Dubas getting turfed by MLSC, apparently they're trying to now go after his relationship with the agent who tried to get him a better deal. So, make of that what you will. But on top of their other sketchy behavior, this is just not a good look for
There's
them.
well, there's the issue of tampering, and there were some immediately because of the way things changed and the way Dubas asked for more. The word was more power, right? That was the
Mm-hmm.
word around. Some people suggested that somebody said something in his ear to suggest, hey, if you come here, we'll give you this much power and we'll give you this kind of autonomy, which is what he was looking for. And that's much like what Marner did when he signed the contract with the Leafs. He was contemplating signing an offer sheet and decided not to after the Leafs relented and gave him what he wanted. So this is the kind of stuff that is a little untoward for me, Aaron. I'm with the millions that these people make, to have to to play the game and cross the line in a way that basically just doesn't. It just seems sketchy. And I know in sports when games are played, we all have our tough guy that we give him slack, on our hockey teams, and we judge the other players, tough guys, a little differently. But when it comes to this kind of stuff, no,
Yeah.
it should be a little cleaner.
Yeah, no, and really, I think their primary beef is that Armstrong wasn't certified by the NHLPA to work as a hockey agent. So even though he may have been certified to work as a golf agent, that certification doesn't necessarily clear over because the NHLPA hasn't cleared him to do it. So,
Well, it is what it is. Well, this was
yep,
fun, Aaron. I appreciate it, buddy.
not a problem, Frank. I'm glad you made it home.
Yeah, it was touch and go, and then it was touch, and then it was gone. Okay, he's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, airing Mondays, of course, and Wednesdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca and Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube. Please subscribe. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.